What's going on out there, everybody? This is Sammy Legger here representing TeamJVS, here to give you guys another movie review. So, in the 1960s, roughly, a certain singer, artist, performer came upon New York and he revolutionized what it looks like for not just folk music, but music in general. I'm talking about Bob Dylan. So, this is directed by James Mangold. If you don't know who James Mangold is, of course, you probably heard of Logan. If you've heard of Girl Interrupted, if you heard of Identity, heard of Ford vs. Ferrari, and now you got a complete unknown. And this is starring the amazing Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Will Harrison, Boyd Holbrook, Ellie Fanning, and a slew of other amazing artists and performers. Scoot McNairy playing the role of Woody Gualtieri, Dan Folger, but Timothée Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, I'm gonna just say it. He has two standout performances to me this year. One was Dune Part 2 in Paul Atreides. I think that that's an Oscar-worthy performance, absolutely. But him playing Bob Dylan, not only is it well acted, but he is singing every single note and putting in 1,000% every single scene that he's in. Whether it be his small little mannerisms, his quirks, how he sounds, everything about even how he carries himself. I think the biggest thing is the metamorphosis of who Bob Dylan starts out to being, like this weird, eccentric, full of himself kind of like artist that just really just wants to be close around Woody, who's the Scoot's character, because he relishes everything that he brought. And his first scenes with Scoot and Edward is so great because Edward Norton is playing the role of Pete Seeger. And when they have that first moment, it's like, oh, okay, this is somebody's destined for something completely different. And it's like acted perfectly, it's sung perfectly, and it's just executed perfectly. But then the progression of him, like, seeing certain other artists and understanding how they tick, understanding what he wants from his own music, what he wants from himself, then kind of receding back into himself, and then him becoming more of a ego, a personality, and not that good of a person to be around, but the music is undeniable. And then him just totally receding back into himself, but the music is too big for even him. And I think that with the way that Timothée Chalamet presents it, the way he acts it, using the script, like, it's just done to perfection. It's interesting that one of the movies I didn't name out that James Mangold directed was Walk the Line. And I mean, amazing performance by Joaquin Phoenix and of course Reese Witherspoon. But one of the things that's so critical about it is not the downward spiral of a certain person. It's more so how we get to that point of understanding who the person is. And I think with like Walk the Line, it was just so much, like getting the unpacking of who, Johnny Cash is. But more than that, like that metamorphosis and that transformation even happens in Logan, absolutely. But Timothy is able to do that with every single interaction. You're seeing different pieces of him, and you're getting the glimpse of the icon that was Bob Dylan, whether you hate him or love him. The interesting thing is, even with his love interest in this, one played by Ellie Fanning and Sylvie, it's very interesting that the music is just his front and center, and he uses that to propagate every relationship that he's with. And then when you think about like Monica Barbero's character in Joan Baez, like, she is an amazing performer. She's one of the best. And yet there's this back and forth nudge, this unhealthy, toxic thing where it's like the balance is really just the music and that's really it. And they play off of each other really well, both relationships. But more specifically, I think Monica and Timothy's performance together, they bring out the best performances in this film, absolutely. Now, Edward Norton's character, Pete, he plays a very pivotal role. And at times he feels like the antagonist of the story because he's kind of this traditionalist and kind of set in his ways of what is supposed to be. But he also understands how important and vital Timothy's character, Bob, is. And it's just so interesting to see how he kind of progresses through this. Every single character to me in this film feels not complete and flawed all at the same time. Like they're trying to get to a destination that they just cannot achieve. Or even if they've gotten to a destination, it's not this self-fulfilling, it's not satisfaction. And I think that that is a very interesting dynamic in a film like this, where you allow performance in Timothy Chalamet to shine, while at the same as that time allowing all these different characters to just feel unfulfilled. And I think that when it comes to the film, I'm curious people's perspective. For me, I felt like the film in and of itself was not something that I felt like, man, I need to rewatch this immediately. I think that the performances, and specifically Timothy's performance, is undeniable. But the film itself and the framing of how Bob interacts with people, how he like does or doesn't like nurture the relationships that he has, the selfishness aspect of it and the ego of it, it's just it's not that it's not becoming, it's just, I guess it's a reality. And I think that the sad part about it is how he just cannot connect outside of music. And it's very interesting. You have all these different amazing performers and actors and people that are connected to him, but they're not connected in the way that he needs. It's interesting. The one interesting character in this one, played by Boyd Holbrook, Johnny Cash, he understands it. He gets it. He gets it in ways. And like, oh my God, Boyd kills it. His performance, in the small amount of time he was in it, he just murdered every single scene. It was so fascinating. But it's just interesting. Like you got this guy in Bob. He's very eccentric. He's very to himself. He's very selfish. And he honestly is just very strange and eccentric. And it's not like, something has to be very malicious about it. It's just who he is. And I think it's going to be a hate it or love it kind of scenario in terms of his story. It's interesting that they went down the route of Bob Dylan telling his story, but I think if they could have, any other person, one, directing it, any other person acting in it, and a good surrounding supporting cast that are not trying to steal, like, because Ellie Fanning is an amazing actor, right? But she's not trying to steal the light from anybody. And I think that everybody plays their role to a T. But I think Timothy's performance is the thing that shines at this. The music, ooh, the way they handle some of the iconic musical moments, because some of the songs, I don't know all Bob Dylan's music, but I know a good amount of them. But the ones that I don't know and how they handle, his progression, his musical talent, his instrumental talent, and how he interacts with music in general, I think they handle it with so much care and grace that I was like, wow, this is really good biography. But the way they handle the set pieces and the setup for those stages, and of course, it depends on Timothy's performance as well. It's just executed so well. And then it's got also a pretty decent score as well. Good amount of soundtracks and music. But I think that the cinematography and those specific shots of just him becoming an icon, even if it's in the nighttime or in the daytime, I think that they handle it really well. And I think that they shared a very interesting light with it. So all in all, this is directed really well. Performance outshines more than anything. I rest this at an 8 out of 10. Definitely recommend you go and check it out at least once. But if nothing, for Timothy's amazing performance in this one. But I still say that him and Paul Atreides is also equally, if not more so, Oscar worthy as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace, people.